leave shortly.
Okay, awesome. Definitely. Nice to meet everyone. My name is Mark Gadeloff, and my father just stepped out. He'll be right back in a few moments. Sakina, thank you for bringing us on. We love to be here. We work with Keller Williams all throughout the 5 boroughs, and essentially what we do is we do violation removal. We specifically help agents and brokers with their when their clients have violations. And we'll just go into a few basic topics I have down right here. We're going to discuss what are violations, what are the most common violations in New York City, how they affect realty, how to search up any violation in New York City, and lastly, we'll discuss a little more about our company, how we help realty, and then we'll do like an open forum question answer type for anyone that has any questions at all, or even throughout the Zoom call. If at any point anyone has any questions, you can either leave a comment in the box, or you can just speak freely. It's an open class. So what are violations? Violations are essentially any work that was done illegally. For example, you'll have the most common violations, work without a permit, where people will they'll do an illegal extension to the back or the front of their house without pulling permits prior, and then they'll either get caught by a neighbor snitching, calling for 911, which happens a lot, or even you'll see like the New York City Department of Buildings, the car is driving up and down and around the blocks. Here's my father. He'll be joining us also.
Hi, good afternoon.
I just wanted to discuss a little bit about what violations are, and I wanted to discuss that it's all illegal work. I want to get into that a little more, maybe.
Okay. Well, I'm sure they've had plenty of experience violations.
All right, so then it's essentially all work that was done illegally, and then the most common things we see are cellar apartments, basement apartments, illegal extensions, decks, illegal bathrooms installed in the basement.
Even curb cuts and sidewalk violations,
curb cuts. What else do we see?
Like failure to maintain, stuff. If you don't, you get violations for not maintaining the premises properly. Could be something simple like a detached leader to a facade that's leaning or falling. So there are hundreds of different violation codes. Anything that's still in violation and not corrected will probably be picked up by title. So,
and then the way they affect realty is a lot of times property won't transfer unless all violations are cleared. A lot of times you'll have a lender that will withhold, and they won't want to lend if they see violations. So you get a problem with the bank. But a lot of the times, you want to discuss how it works with escrow?
well, if it's something that depending on the bank, some banks won't close. Some banks will close. They'll estimate how much they think it'll take to fix a problem, if it's with architect plans or with construction or demolition, and they'll double it, and they'll take double escrow. So if they think something is going to cost $15,000, they will require the seller to put usually $30,000 in escrow, and then it's up to him to fix the problem. And then if and when he does, he'll get his money back, or after a certain amount of time, the funds will be released to the seller, and it becomes his problem. And that's something that they have to agree to. The buyer doesn't want to take on the headache, they won't close.
A lot of the time, though, the buyer doesn't want to take on the headache because, a lot of the times they need a alteration application, which is they need an architect to get involved and to redo plans. And it could cost anywhere between 30 to 40,000, sometimes 50,000, and now or less. But whatever the cost is, that scares away a buyer. And it's a huge problem for realty, especially because when it comes to realty, you guys are real estate agents, and then you have the brokers, associate brokers. You put in a lot of effort and a lot of work just to get a deal going, and then last minute, the attorneys pull title, and you see there's a bunch of violations on there, and you're like, what even is a violation? How do I even go about correcting this? So it's so much. There's so much that goes into, of course, I don't need to tell you guys, to even getting to the stage of closing, and then a violation comes up, and now your whole deal is held up. It could be potentially even it could even fall through in some cases, and for what? For nothing. So we'll give you guys some precautionary tips you could take in order to avoid waiting till title is pulled. So there's actually a website that I'll put in the chat right now. .com. And it's dob.bis.com, and that stands for Department of Buildings Building Information Search.com. So if anyone has, we'll do like a quick show and tell. I'll share my screen here. And let me go to here. Okay, great. And I'll go to it myself, www.dob.bis.com. I shared it in the link. Oops, what is this? Let me go to Google. Okay. DOB.BIS. And you'll click on here, and you really don't have to move from number 1. So you'll pick the borough. If anyone has an address at all they want to search up, we can definitely do that and give an analysis on if there's any violations. If anyone has anything in mind, you can either put in the chat box, or you could say it, and we could put it in. If anyone has anything they want to look up. Let me check anybody? Okay, so I'll put in one myself. If no one has, I'll put in Brooklyn. I'll put the house number. Let's see, someone that we're working on right now. Do you have any addresses online?
What?
Violations? Something common? Maybe someone we're working on?
Yeah, I'm working on a guy right now. I just finished getting his violations cleared up. I'll give you an address. I can.
I can grab one also.
Try let's try.
I'll put in Brooklyn, 1968, unless you have something else. Coney Island. Brooklyn, 1968. Coney.
There's one. Okay, try Queens,
Okay.
56-22. 68th Street. I just finished getting all the certificate of corrections. You'll see that when you go to it.
And you wanna guide them through
So you show them the Department of Buildings, they had 4 Department of Buildings violations and 7 ECB violations. They were all open, now they're all closed. They have 0 open.
So you'll find the way we did that, we just put in the address, push enter, and then this page pops up. And there's 2 different violations. There's what's called over here DOB violations, Department of Buildings violations, and then you have oath violations. And those will be over here. Yeah, no problem. When it comes to oath violation, see, I'll click it over here. You'll see Yeah. You'll see that each violation comes with what's called a scheduled hearing date. So here you have a court date for 10/25. And then along with the court date, they have to do what's called a file certificate of corrections, which is paperwork. It's essentially around like 45 minutes of paperwork that has to be filled out correctly. And if it's not, it gets rejected. And that has to be uploaded. What is a certificate of correction? Certificate of correction, it's essentially, it's proof along with paperwork showing that the reason why the violation was given now is it's now corrected. The violating conditions which the violation was given for is now corrected, and it comes. You would essentially give we would get pictures, upload the pictures to along with the paperwork, and that's essentially filing corrections. Now it comes with a court date, and excuse me, as you can see over here, these are all, it says default here, default. Default means that nobody went to court and nobody represented this person. So as you see here, he has a violation for 3,125 and now jumped to 6,280. And this is the oldest violation. It went to 12,500. So as time goes by, the violations get, if the court date is missed, and then as time goes by, every couple months they up it up, and then they give you what's called a non-compliance, which is a violation given for not complying, and it comes every 3 weeks, and it's additional 1,500. And that's how you would search any. That's how you would search any address before the attorneys pull title. So you don't have to think and worry, do they have violations, do they not? The precautionary step, you could put it in here. You put in the house address, street, go. You can search up any address in New York City. Now I'll just leave I'll stop sharing. Oops. Pause share. Stop share. Okay, great. If anyone has any questions at any point, please feel free. Now we'll go next. Okay. Questions. And that's essentially.
So yes, I have a question.
Yeah, of course.
So this does just affect when you actually buy or sell. It doesn't affect, let's say, when you rent. Any violation open can affect the ability of the landlord to rent?
No, when it comes, the only thing I can think of with renting is if there's a vacate order on there. And a vacate order basically means that it basically means that either the apartment or the house is there's something unsafe with it and it's not livable. So they'll either put what's called a partial vacate order or a full vacate order. Partial vacate order means like a piece of the premises is not safe to live in. No one's allowed to go there. And a full vacate order means the entire building is unsafe and no one is allowed to occupy it until it's fixed. So when it comes to renting, the only thing I could think of, and the only thing really is if there's a vacate order. Other than that, you should be good though. And the reason you would get a vacate order is like I was saying, if there's something that's unsafe with the building, they would give it out. Could you think of anything else where that would affect renting?
So let's see, when you check apartment to rent, right? And you see obviously basement that has been, altered, like how it is a legal basement after, you guys remember what happened last year around this time with the flooding.
That's
that
right.
really affect all the Queens boroughs. So how how as a renter, it is a legal basement, everything has been, up to code, etc.
There's a difference between what's called a cellar and a basement. Most houses have cellars. The basement is more like a ground level or 1 or 2 steps down. A cellar is, most people have cellars. It's 5, 6, 7 steps down. The windows are smaller. They're closer to the ceiling. You can't have a separate apartment there. You cannot have a kitchen there in a cellar. You're not allowed to sleep in a cellar. You can't cook in a cellar. If it's a 1 or 2 family house, you could legalize a bathroom. Most people's bathrooms have not been legalized. And if the DOB were to find out about it, they would give them a violation because it has to be filed for, and most of the cellars that were built without them. Over 90% were built. So usually if you see a bathroom in a cellar, it was put in sometime after the house was built. So if you don't see anything filed for it, it's not legal. Doesn't mean you can't have it. You could legalize it, but probably at the time wasn't done as of yet. As far as how do you know what's legal and what's not legal, like I said, if it's a ground floor or 1 or 2 steps down, and the C of O says basement, that's considered living space, even though it's basement. You are allowed to convert a basement into a separate unit. You could put a basement as conjunction or with accessory use to the, let's say, the apartment upstairs. You could duplex it. So there's more versatility with the basement than there is with the cellar. Basement has the larger full-size windows high above ground. But it's an individual basis. As you start training yourself, you'll be able to pick it up right away. What's a basement? What's a cellar? As you go in, you probably can figure out what they're not allowed to have. Once you see a kitchen downstairs in a cellar, you know you have an illegal condition. And, at some point, if there's not in violation, they are, and then it's just buyer beware. And the buyer is buying it with a non-legal condition. And if they catch him at some point after the house is sold, it'll be on him. It's
Okay, cool. Thank you. I'm actually checking the place that I rent right now, the way that you show just prior, and it says B's is now reflecting some transactions, April 29, May to May 6.
Right. The Department of Buildings had some technical problems earlier in the year, and they're just letting you know that they did. That's the Department of Buildings telling you that the Department of Buildings had some technical problems back earlier in the year, and they did not overcome it, and they lost some data. Nothing anybody can do about that.
So there is no way around for me to check if there is a violation, for example, in the place where I live right now.
Yeah,
if the Department of Building doesn't have it available right now?
99.9%, it's up there. If you want, you can check your address.
Let's check it out. Okay. Let's do you want us to share screen it or no?
Sure.
Right,
It's a 66-28 Sanders Street.
How do you spell the street?
Sanders.
Yeah, S-A-N-D. How do you spell Sanders?
Is it A-U-N-D-E-R-S?
Yes.
S-A-U.
Actually, you know what? I spell it even wrong myself.
Oh,
Apologize.
So Sanders, this is it? Street?
All right. S-A-U. Load. There you go. Okay. You have an open complaint. You have a closed violation. You want to go check on her complaints. What's open? Why is there an open complaint there? It's very, it's recent from last month. Go ahead, click on top one. Yeah, they're claiming you have an illegal conversion. So far, they have not gotten access, but they posted an LS4, which is an order for you to call them and let them in for an inspection. Let's see where it says. It doesn't say where. Let's see, inspector. Yeah, it doesn't say where. Usually it's for the basement. So they want to get in and check you out. Go to the violation. She has a closed violation.
That was the one from the March 22nd last year.
What, the violation?
Yeah.
No, the violation's from the 1990s. Let's see here. You had
Okay,
enough.
going back to the original document that you opened, where you start looking those one.
This one, the legal conversion.
There's an open complaint on your property, illegal conversion residential space. The owner has the owner's name there. And then it says, inspector unable to gain access on August 5th. So they left an LS4, which is basically a DOB telling you to call them and let them in.
How you doing, guys? Quick question. Would that be something you guys will be able to remove?
Right now, there's nothing to remove. If they get in and they give you a violation, then you deal with violation. If they get in and they don't give you a violation, it's over. And
Okay, so if they do give the violation, that's when you guys will step in, correct?
in this particular case, it was just, or you could just not call them and see if they're persistent, or if they drop it. Sometimes they give up after, let's say, 3 attempts, and sometimes they don't. They'll put a second complaint in there, or they'll put it over to special operations.
Got it. And
So
how much
question-
is something, I'm sorry to cut you. How
Go
much
ahead,
is
go ahead.
something like
I
that?
don't know what's in there. I don't know what's if there's anything wrong, and if there's anything wrong, what has to be corrected.
Got it.
If they gave you a violation, a detailed violation stating where and what, I can give you a ballpark right now.
Got it.
So how that affect me as if I live in this and we just start renting this place? Like I
Are
feel
you in
like
the
an
basement?
idiot
Are you
right now.
cellar? Are you downstairs?
Well, it's the whole house and include the basement. Yes, of course.
Sorry?
And obviously I didn't do my job checking anything before.
I'm saying
Uh,
that's you that lives downstairs?
Yeah, there is a couple of rooms actually downstairs,
Uh-huh.
but there is a stair. Obviously, there is a bathroom, very small.
Right.
But my point is how that can affect me if I stay living here. I mean, can
Okay.
the city or the building of the apartment?
If the building
this be-
department comes in and deems the place illegal, which it sounds like it is, but, maybe it's not, but I'll give you a hypothetical. Somebody else, they get in and they say, oh, you can't have this and it's dangerous, then they just might very well issue a vacate order for that basement. And if they issue a vacate order for the basement, they might execute it and they might not, meaning if they give you a vacate order, they might come back a couple days later and say, everybody out. Or they just might leave it and keep giving the owner more and more violations. It
Wow.
really depends on, that's what I'm saying, there's no set way of how they're gonna react. I've seen it every way possible. They do get in, they don't get in. They get in and they don't give violation. They get in and they do give violation. And they give a vacate and they do not give a vacate. They give a vacate and they execute the vacate. They don't execute the vacate. It really depends on what the chief is going to tell his guys what to do. There's no rhyme or reason, and there's no set way. The guy next door might throw the book at him. And the guy on the other side of the street, they might just give him one violation and just, and not follow up with another one. And it could be the same exact situation, looks identical. And it's just a matter of, what they decide to do with everybody, with their own. On every case, it's always different.
Wow. Now, I'm sorry to take more time, but one more question. What will be my rights as a tenant living obviously in this place without knowing what we rent, where we're living,
If they vacate you, you have no rights. It's get out or else. If the DOB comes down or the there's an HPD, they're not asking questions. They're telling you to get out and you're getting out. You know, if they don't. then
So
you
wasn't
stay.
the
Yes,
rental?
but I
the
think
land-
what Elizabeth is asking is, does she have any rights or does the landlord have any responsibility for renting out an illegal apartment?
Well, it hasn't been determined that it's an illegal apartment, but if it does get determined that it's an illegal apartment, if they vacate her, that's something, I'm gonna tell you, is it a civil suit? I don't know. Some people move out into a relative, some people have nowhere to go. I don't know. I don't really get into the the people back and forth argument of it. It's just, I just try to get people out of trouble with the Department of Buildings.
One more question.
So
The
the truth of the matter
realtor.
is, if this house got violated, I would end up, well, the only person that would hire us would be the owner. And then it would
Yeah,
be
well-
our job to get the owner, as little damage with the Department of Buildings as possible, whether it's fines, whether it's, multiple violations. But what they do usually, if they gave, let's say, for example, this house a vacate, by the time I'm handed the job, the house is empty, that apartment is empty. And I never hear from the tenants who was vacated or where they went or what they had to do. It's just the owner of the house saying, hi, I got 2 violations, 3 violations on my house. I need court representation. I need you to represent me in court. I need to fix this. I need to put it back to the way it was. I need an architect to draw a plan. And that's, it's basically get me out of this hot water that I put myself in.
I understand. So I guess the realtor that did this transaction could be held accountable as well for, basically not doing the job as well, or
So who would be held accountable? I mean, they could say it was the tenant also. You should have inspected the house that you were moving into before you
Yeah.
moved in. I mean, they could say that, and they, and then it'll be a finger pointing game.
yeah, I see. Thank you very much, guys.
You're welcome.
Patricia, you want us to look up an address as well? Let me go to
Yes,
the-
I did. Sorry. Thank
No,
you.
okay, sure. Is it in Queens?
Yeah, it's in Queens.
Awesome. Would you mind reading it to me?
It's 8401 Main Street.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so this guy pretty much takes care of his stuff. He had 30 violations and only one of them is still open. You went to the DOBs?
Well, this is the
Okay,
event.
we'll go back to the other one first. Okay, so it's a large building.
You want to see ECB?
Yeah, it needs to be. Let's see what's open. It's this one. So he has nothing upcoming. He has one open violation. And failure to maintain exterior building facade. Appearances note at time inspection, north elevations. Okay, he needs to get a masonry, so some bricklayers in there and fix it up.
Okay.
He might need, well, they didn't give him a violation for that. Usually these larger buildings, they have to file every few years, they have to file a facade report. I forgot what it's called. Tier 7 or level 7 or whatever it happens to be, where they engineer, if engineer goes with like a binoculars and looks for the minutest thing and they draw it up and they tell you either it's satisfactory or it needs repair, and then you file it and you do your repairs. If you don't file it within a certain amount of time, they give you a violation for not filing, and then they'll come out to see if there's any cracks there as well. But he doesn't have that violation, at least it's not open.
Hmm.
All right, you want to go into the certificate of corrections also?
So every violation that you get, it'll tell you two things. One is if there's a hearing date, and if the person went, in this particular case, he admitted to the fine. See there, admit. He says, yes, I'm guilty. He paid his $1,280 fine. But on top here, it says no compliance recorded. See there, no compliance recorded, meaning he didn't fix the reason why he got the violation for. So what he should do is once he fixes the facade, then he has to file a series of paperwork and submit it to the Department of Buildings. Special form that has to be filled out, signed and notarized, along with a signed sworn affidavit, signed and notarized, proof that the problem was fixed, whether it's with pictures or if he hired a contractor's receipt, and we file that with the Department of Buildings. And once that gets filed and accepted, it will no longer say no compliance recorded. It'll say certificate accepted. Then the violation will be closed out. Then instead of having that one violation showing open, it'll be closed and it'll show 0 open in this case. His other 30-something violations, he fixed them all. He filed his corrections and so this guy does his maintenance. He gets his violations, but he corrects them.
Can I ask for another address?
What was it?
Can I ask for another address?
Yeah, of course.
This is 6260 99th Street.
6260 90th Street.
99.
99.
Okay. Click on DOB.
We have another guy, big building, lots of violations, fixes most of them. He had 65 of them that he fixed. He has 1 left that's open. And that is, he has a, let's see, according to this, he has a court date coming up. And that date is October 25th. Same thing, failure to maintain building, exterior walls. Is that anywhere near the other building was?
No, it's in Queens, maybe not really in close proximity.
Okay, well, you got the same type of violation, the same reason. And then he has, let's see here. He has, out of his 86 Department of Buildings violations, he has only 2 that are still open. Let's see. Yeah, everything is resolved. Let's see where his open violations are. Here's an active one. Again, facade safety program. They gave it to him in 2017. So he has to put in his paperwork that it was fixed. Next. Any more? One more. Here's an active one from this one. It's probably the same thing. This is from February of this year. There you go. Failed to file FISP cycle 9A technical report. That's for the facade. See, that's what I was telling you before. These large buildings, every few years, they have to file a technical report showing the if their exterior walls are in proper condition.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Okay, I guess we'll go into a little about our company, what we do. Let me just pull up some information.
Wait, could you do one more address?
Yeah, of course, no problem.
Yeah,
Yeah, we can do as many as
it's-
you guys want.
thank you. Just quick, in Queens, the address is 1403 31st Drive in Astoria. It's a mixed-use building,
Sorry, one moment. It's 1403.
31st Drive.
Gotcha. Okay. You have one DOB violation.
So just one, right?
Just
Okay.
one.
Just one violation. Okay, yeah, what's the violation?
Premises rendered.
Non-compliant. Go ahead. This is the violation because the car hit the building.
Right.
That's it. So would there, because somebody who's trying to steal it from the family is saying that it has 18 violations. Would there be anything else that could be misconstrued as the violation?
Not in the Department of Buildings, maybe a different organization gave violations. Maybe
Okay,
they-
what other
maybe-
organization?
Could be HPD.
HPD, okay.
Could be Department of Transportation.
No. Could be HPD.
How could we find that out if there's anything against?
You go on HPD online. And you just
Okay.
put the address the same way, HPD online. Put the address in with the borough and you'll see it. You go to where it says open violations. That's more for like
Excellent.
internal like my windowsill is cracked, there's a broken window, or there's a leaking sink, or there's no heat. That type of stuff. That's where that's housing and preservation. That's where that's HPD gives those type of violations.
Okay, great, excellent, thank you.
Not a problem. Anyone else with any other any addresses before we go forward? Okay, so I'll just go on to the next. Okay,
I must come to the office at 7 o'clock.
okay,
So if you need me, I will move on.
okay. We'll just go to the last slide here. We'll now talk about a little about our company, what we do. These are our services, the core representation. My father's the main representative. He's been doing core representation for 15 years. We want to discuss maybe a little bit about, how court is and, your experience.
Court's a drag, it sucks. Nobody else wants to be in there, so I go.
Yeah.
And you go in there and you fight for the violation. The judge is there, you're up against the Department of Buildings attorney and the issuing officer who gave the violation. And they basically gang up on you. And you have to know how to, come out swinging and show them how they're wrong. Sometimes they're right. Sometimes the guy is guilty and you have to just try to find ways to get off on technicalities or, any error that he might have made, even in an affidavit of service. But many times there's a viable defense for every violation.
Then we do the thank you. We do the certificate. Do the certificate of corrections, which we went into. Department of Buildings violations. We get them dismissed. Defaulted fine reduction is when court date is not attended. The fine goes up drastically. We work and we try to negotiate with different agencies in New York City to get the fines back down to a minimum, and sometimes vacate it altogether. Alteration application. This is when a client needs an architect to get involved to draw plans, to do legalization. Vacate orders, like we were discussing earlier, help get vacate orders removed, stop work orders. And then lastly, limited alteration application. This is when you need a licensed plumber to get involved. And you really deal mostly with the LAAs.
Yeah, I do the LAS plumbers. Sometimes the guy has a illegal bathroom in his cellar. And the option is either get rid of it or legalize it. The truth is, legalizing it costs a lot more than getting rid of it. So a guy sometimes might say, you know what, I never go down there the bathroom is 50 years old, I'm not gonna, get rid of it. I will have a licensed plumber file for its removal. Something like that could cost 3,500, 4,000 with all the paperwork and the permits and the cutting and capping. It costs, 9 or 10,000 or sometimes even more to legalize a bathroom. So you might not want to keep it. Some people will definitely keep it. They'll pay significantly more to keep it because, number one, it might be a nice, expensive bathroom. And number two, regardless, the house is probably worth more with the bathroom down there, especially if it's legalized, then it's worth without having a bathroom down there. So sometimes they'll take the limited alteration application. Some people would rather just go for an alteration application and keep the illegal bathroom and legalize it. And it's not just for, it's sometimes it's people have converted their garage into living space. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. If you can, they like to keep it that way. If they can't, they have to revert it back to a garage. Every house is different depending on the zoning, what their zoning is, what their zoning allows, and sometimes how much they built, how much they, how much room they left. It's a lot of factors that go into every job.
Right. And then lastly, a little about our company. We work exclusively with real estate. We work very closely with real estate all throughout New York City, especially Keller Williams. We're very timely. The day we receive something to start working on, that's the day it gets started worked on. The way it works is when we get a job, we notify the client exactly what must be done on their end to correct the violation. We do an analysis and research to see exactly what has to be done. And then once the violating conditions are corrected, if they need our help, either with an architect or if they have their own, or if it's with a plumber or a contractor, which we can refer great contacts to, but if they have their own, they can use their own. Once the violating conditions are done, they're fixed, then we take care of the rest. And if they're using our contractor, our plumber, our architect we work with, we basically coordinate with them, hand in hand to make sure everything is getting done on a timely manner. So, things get going. And last, we're very transparent. We keep the client and as well as the agent and the broker updated every step of the way. We let you know what process of the violation removal you're in. So you're not left hanging thinking, what's going on, is it being taken care of? And when it comes to dealing with agents and clients, we work, it's really however the agent wants to work and whoever they're comfortable with. If they want us to talk directly to the client, we'll deal directly with them and keep them as much as possible inside the loop. If they want to be in the middle of everything, that's perfectly fine too. I'm working with someone that she prefers that method. She prefers that method herself, and so it's whatever the real estate agent is more inclined to. They know the client more than anyone else, and during the process, and it's whatever they're most comfortable with. That's how we'll deal with the client. And if anyone has any last questions before we hop off, I'll leave our contact information in the comment box. If anyone has any questions, you can email us or contact us. Let me put in the number.
Yeah, I have a quick question.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I just want to talk about like a pretty common or typical kind of lien, which is like a sidewalk lien. Assuming that the sidewalk needs to be replaced, how long does it take you guys to clear that?
Yeah.
If the guy has the map that they gave him, and if he has a sidewalk contractor, it's not long. It's just basically go pull a DOT permit, let the guy do his work, and we'll call for a DOT to come down and inspect. If everything is good, it gets done. Usually, the biggest time is waiting for the DOT to come down and make the inspection. That could be 1 to 2 months before they show up. And they'll give you a tentative date, And that's, right now, that's about the time that it takes. So if you don't have a map or the diagram that they gave you, well, then the guy can, usually if you have a guy who's trained, he's a DOT, he's a contractor, cement contractor. He'll look at it and say, I can tell you what needs to be done. They gave you that square because it's cracked. That part is because it's lifted. That's because it's chipped off and blah, 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 and they'll do it without the diagram. And then they'll call for inspection. Diagram is that you don't have to do the whole thing. But usually that's the biggest thing. The biggest thing is waiting for the Department of Transportation to come and inspect and then take it off the system. That's been taking between 1 and 2 months. Fixing the cement, that's 2 days. That just depends on how quickly the owner wants to, get on track. If he's gonna sit there and bargain with 5 different guys over saving 50 cents a square foot, it'll take longer.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone have any other questions at all? Okay, if anyone needs, you have our contact info. I'm more than happy to help with any of your violation needs, any expediting. You can contact us anytime. My name is Mark Gadeloff again. This is my father.
Hi.
His name's David Gadeloff. Thank you guys so much for your time, and we're here whenever you need. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you guys. Good night.